Hey there, my name's Danny Leibrandt, and welcome back to Local Marketing Secrets. Today I'm with Ellen Rohr, the co-founder of Zoom Drain, a rapidly growing drain and sewer franchise now with 60 plus locations across the United States. She's also a major industry leader at ServiceTitan, where she serves as the brand and industry marketing lead and helps guide thousands of contractors on building better, more profitable companies. Ellen has one of the most powerful stories in the trades. She came into the industry as a plumber's wife, stepped into a struggling business after a son tragedy, and turned it around by mastering the financials and simplifying operations. From there, she became the president of Benjamin Franklin Plumbing and helped grow that franchise from 0 to 47 locations and over $40 million in franchise sales in under 2 years, one of the fastest growing expansions in the home services industry. In this episode, we'll talk about how she helped grow two national brands so quickly, the most common money and pricing mistakes she sees across the trades, and her best advice for home service owners who want to scale with clarity, confidence, and real systems. Now, without further ado, Ellen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Danny. I'm so happy to be here. I think you're
I'm so
terrific.
happy to be.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
you're
I'm so happy to be
wonderful
here with
today.
you too. Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna have fun.
yeah,
I'm already
definitely.
talking over you. Sorry about that.
No, you're all good.
Uh,
So we had a phone call about a month ago, and I was mentioning that I saw you speaking at Tommy Mello's Home Service Freedom. I think you did an amazing job. You have such great energy throughout the whole thing and all the podcasts that I listen to you on. And I just think you're an awesome person in this
Oh,
space. I feel like
keep
there's
going. I love that.
yeah, I don't want to go too much, but I just really respect you, and I think you're doing some really cool things.
Oh, I've lasted a long time, Danny. That, and I will tell you too, it's like 15 minutes ago, I was your age. I felt like I was the youngster in the group, that there was a lot of older folks, and I couldn't wait to learn and to put my energy behind business. And now the tables have turned. I'm like the grandmama in the group, and I'm so happy to see you. I'm very prejudiced towards the youth. One of the things I wanted to share with your listeners today is none of this is hard. There's like you go. Grit is important, but grit is fun. It's like why you train for a marathon. It's because it'll make something of you, not because it's easy, whatever that be.
Mm,
Jim Rohn describes easy as something you can do. So you can definitely do this business. And I think that a lot of old folks like me are going to try and tell you how hard this is. Maybe that's their reality, but my encouragement for our conversation today and for the sake of our listeners is let's find an easier path, shall we? This
mm,
is not that hard. And anything that you need to do to grow your business is not only something you can do, is something you might really enjoy doing. And even the mistakes or the hiccups or the wrong turns turn into stories or songs or art and definitely a lesson. So let's have some fun with this for sure.
yeah,
That's how we
yeah.
can grow your businesses.
Well, speaking of hard, you grew Benjamin Franklin Plumbing from 0 to $40 million. I mean, how does that happen? How did that start? And I mean,
Well, I had help, and this is there's a great expression my friend Nell Merlino says, "You can have it all as long as you don't do it all." And
mm,
I was fortunate enough to not know very much, so I had to get help through others. But let me tell you how that started. So, prior to that, my husband and I had a plumbing, heating, and solar company in Park City, Utah. His name is Hot Rod. That's why I married him, because cool nicknames will get you far. And so Hot Rod and I got married, and he had a partner named Richard Jocks who died suddenly at age 33. He literally worked himself into a health crisis. He wasn't very healthy, and then he just would work, and he stressed, and stress kills. And it
mm,
was a really tragic moment for us. My husband and his friend Yox had been friends since they were 8 years old, and, then I did a really dumb thing, and I said, "Well, listen, I'm gonna quit my real job." I had a career in the restaurant industry. I've had a million jobs, but was kinda making my way in the restaurant world, and, I quit that job, and I went to work with my husband, and it was terrible, absolutely terrible. We hated on each other. We still have the scars from those days. I would say, yeah, we don't have any money, and he would hear, "I'm not good enough, I'm not working hard enough," and it just, it was really, a rough time for us. And then I found mentors. I found my most significant financial mentor is a fellow named Frank Blau, who now is button up against 100 years old. How about that?
Wow.
Still kicking, still bossing us around. But I started to learn from people smarter than me, and the big lesson for me came from the financial end of things. Like Frank taught me how to uh, create, use, read, understand, and make decisions off financial reports, the balance sheet and the profit and loss. And I'd gone to college for this stuff and I still never learned it or didn't know how to clean up a messy set of books, which is what most people's books are. So that was like this life changing, life defining moment for me was like, how do people not know this? I raised my prices. I started to make more money. Hot Rod and I decided not to work together anymore, which we'll get into a little bit later because we just had different goals and dreams. We're still
Mm,
married, but you don't necessarily have to stay in a business that doesn't suit you. So we'll get there in just a second. But money buys options. And as we turned our company around and got out of debt, we had the wherewithal to make choices that aligned with what we really, really wanted. And
mm,
Danny, somewhere along the line, I just wanted to see if I had the chops to grow a bigger business. I thought, one, and you may have had this feeling before, I, that guy is running that business.
mhm.
Then I
Yeah.
can do that.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense? I see
Yeah.
you nodding, right? So you're just, like, looking around going, "Okay, I bet I could do that." I just wanted to see, like, you have these, maybe innate itches to scratch that I think you should pay attention to. Hot Rod did not have that. Hot Rod, like, is going, "Ugh, are you kidding me? I don't wanna do the employees, I don't want." And I honor and respect that too. So for you, for anyone listening, I think what I learned during this time, and I've kind of made it a life's goal to keep asking this question is like, what do you want? What do you want?
Mm,
Regardless of what anyone else is doing, regardless, of anyone else's hopes and dreams, what do you want? And are you willing to commit to that? So at the time, I had just this itch, like, I want to grow a big business. And I thought the only way I was going to be able to do that was with my plumber husband. The two of us could go out there, but he didn't want it. And
mm.
so, like, that may be where you find yourself in, the position you find yourself in with partners or with family or, sometimes you're just going in different directions and doesn't make anybody right or wrong. But I knew I had this drive. So we sold our company to our employees and I was like, I was lost. Like, what do I do? How do I serve? What's the point? What do I want? And I just knew I wanted to grow a company. That's like I just thought it looked fun. And
Yeah.
then I started sharing what I learned. You start with what you know. I started teaching people how to read a balance sheet and a profit and loss. I started doing consulting for mom and pop companies. Here's your asset, here's for your elbow, that kind of thing. Just what I've learned, I started to share. And as a result, I started to speak. You saw me on stage at Home
Mhm.
Service Freedom. And I felt honor bound to share because so many people had shared with me. Frank was really the beginning of just a long line of mentors and, philosophies that I could learn from and absorb. And then I felt compared to share that. And I was doing a seminar one day, and after the seminar, Jim Abrams, who's a legend in our industry, came up to me and he said, "How would you like to run the country's largest home service plumbing company?" And I said, "Yes." Now, keep in mind, the only company I'd been involved in at this point was Hot Rod's company, and we had 4 trucks. Like, that was it. But when that happened, it was aligned with what I wanted, and I said yes, even though I was absolutely not qualified to say yes to
Mm,
that. And so Jim Abrams is an investor, and he and his partner invested in this new concept, Benjamin Franklin, the punctual plumber. So I didn't do it alone. You never do anything alone.
mhm.
But what I had the opportunity to do was learn a lot about business and franchising in a very short period of time. I mean, I do have the scars to show for it. There were some brutal moments, but every day I'm grateful for that experience because of how much I learned in this condensed period of time. It was
Mm,
really amazing. And then I left there, like, in 2023, not 2023, 2003, more than 20 years ago is when that, and that it was just a point at that organization where it had grown big enough. I was going to be required to move, which I didn't want to do. Here's another thing, as I think of like wisdom from an old woman kind of thing. Um, Once you know how to sell, once you understand the mechanics of business, you have a lot more freedom. So one is establishing enough money, like enough wherewithal that you can pay the bills. Then you can make better decisions in terms of what you want. And then once you acquire the skills, sales skills, operational skills, you can do anything. Like, it
Mm.
really takes a lot of fear away. Does that make sense? I would say, like, the essential business skill is being able to, do a needs assessment, make friends, do a needs assessment, offer appropriate options and solutions, ask for the sale, shut up, say, "Thanks, you made a great decision," or "Congratulations, you made a great decision. Here's what happens next." Like, that skill set um, allows me at any point to just think, "I'm gonna be fine." Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Did you go through something like that? How did
Yes.
you learn to sell?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you kind of have to when you're trying to start a business, whatever it may be. And that was kind of my main trouble is when I was starting to be an entrepreneur, I was trying to start doing drop shipping or affiliate marketing. And I mean, I didn't know any of the mechanics of business at all. So I think that's where a lot of people kind of start out, where maybe in this space, they're a technician and they're really good at teching and they're like, oh, okay, well, I can make a little bit more money, or, the boss is really annoying, or it's my dad or whatever, and then they actually get into it, and kind of like you're saying, that there's just a lack of knowledge with all of these other areas of business that actually allow you to grow and step out of being an employee. So like what would some of those key components be then? Because you like or maybe some of the ones that people get wrong the most. Where
Well,
people
how did you learn to sell then? Like, what was your journey? Did someone teach you? Did
mm,
you read a book? What was like the I may know how to do this, but unless somebody buys it from me, I'm not gonna make a business out of it is really the wall you're gonna hit at this point. So what was it that shifted for you?
yeah. So I've always been an avid learner, and I would say a lot of it is just watching YouTube videos and trying to figure that out, of people talking about sales, of marketing, of financials, or whatever that may be. So YouTube videos have like completely saved me. And also, I'd say just learning on the fly, because I mean, I think you could watch 100 hours of YouTube videos on sales and yet still get on a sales call and suck. So
Right.
I think a lot of it is just reps. And I mean, even up until just a year or two ago, I feel like I really still wasn't competent at sales and getting on the phone and actually being able to close someone and be also even confident in the service. I feel like that's kind of the other end of it. Is
Yeah.
that I mean, why sell something if you're not totally confident in the service that you're providing? So that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
That's a really great description of a typical journey, right? To find something, and YouTube is a great place to learn. There's a lot of crap out there, so you have to weed through, but you find someone who resonates with you. Like before I signed on with that, and I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on personal development, just saying. But before I would sign on with someone now, I'd go look at one of their YouTube clips. I'd follow them. I'd go to one of their webinars, and see how they interact live, so you start to get a feel for someone that you might use their information to help you take the next step. And I think with mentors are fantastic, but the best mentorships turn into friendships where we
Mm.
help each other. It's not that someone's better or greater than you. It's that we're going to help each other out. That's, I think, where relationships are everything in life and in business for sure. So
Yeah.
I think if I were to, there's so many things to do when you start a business. One book I would read or listen to for sure, if you are, as Danny just said, a technician who's thinking maybe I should start my own business. Michael Gerber, The E Myth Revisited. And there's also
Mhm.
a E-Myth contractor version, HVAC contractor, co-written by Ken Goodrich, which is very specific to, trades, HVACs, trades, but applicable to pest and other home
No, he
services.
he has one for pest control. He has one for, like, all the
Okay,
industries.
all right. So
Yeah.
think of what that business model's like. He just kept iterating the same information just with a little specificity and has made a brilliant career out of it. I love Michael Gerber. But that idea of running of creating a business that's systematic. Now, what that does, it helps you it helps you deliver on the promises you make in sales. So you brought that up, right? That it's one thing to be able to sell it, but now how do I make good on
Mhm.
my promise that, this is gonna be the best, service you've ever had or whatever you just said, now you gotta make good on.
Yeah.
So I would say in order of like how it's functionally gonna work, until you have a sale, you have no options.
Mm.
So learn about sales and drop whatever prejudices you have about them, because if you're not willing to become good at sales and communication, you should you're going to have a heartbreak as a business owner.
Mhm.
There's just everything depends on your ability to communicate. And
Mhm.
sales is just the natural outcome of a good communication should someone need or want what it is that you can do. So,
100%.
find people on YouTube with whom you resonate and start honing those sales skills. Now, so if you're building a business, just make some sales, and you're gonna make mistakes, and you're gonna sell at the wrong price, and you're gonna, sell something to somebody who you should never have even continued the conversation with, like, you're gonna make some mistakes. But like you said, you kind of gotta work through them. You cannot learn how to sell or ride a motorcycle or go skiing or golf without actually skiing or riding motorcycle or golfing. Like
Yep.
that, you have to do the actual craft, and you're gonna be terrible at first until you get better, and then, you get that, you hone your skills. Even now, and I've sold my whole life now, um, I made just a rookie mistake the other day in the sales process that I just thought,
Mhm.
"Oh, man, I thought I was over that," but, oh, well, dust yourself off, admit it, and then move on. But selling helps. So in business, the 3 main KPIs, let's talk about this because I am a
Yeah.
numbers girl, and the numbers aspect of business is really my, my expertise. I know a little about all areas of business, but the financial area is the one that I feel like I have something to share here. That's a
Mhm.
voice, that needs to be out there. So on the financial side of things, and it ties with everything, the score, the 3 main KPIs or key performance indicators are sales, profits, and cash.
Mm.
Any business. And they come in this order: sales, profits, and cash. So sell, 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 get something up on the top line. And you got a little breathing room, you got a little bit of money to finesse. Um, then pay attention to expenses. So sales are offense, managing expenses is defense. That's how you get profitability. And
Mm.
as you gather profitability, and you want to get profitable as fast as possible, because if you don't, whatever cash you have, you're going to use,
Mhm.
and you're gonna go into debt. That's it. Like, business is not hard, okay?
Yeah.
So suppose you did that and you got into debt. Now you have to sell better at better prices, hone your skills, raise your prices, and then manage those expenses. Pay attention to what you're spending money on and how your money's going. Owners can't take their eye off this. This is the game.
Mm.
Your
Mhm.
money, it's your job to pay attention, even if you have help, and you're always gonna look for help. But your job is to pay attention to sales minus expenses equals a profit. And if you've gotten into debt, then you need a really big profit.
Mm.
You need to collect it today in cash so that your cash goes up. You can use some of that cash to pay down your debt and the rest of it to fuel your company. S- That.
Yeah. It sounds so simple when you
You know what
explain
I
it.
mean? like, the older I get, the simpler this appears to me, but, like, let us know if you've got a different take on that because no, it imposes that you're making good on those promises because if not, you're giving money back.
Mm,
You're maybe getting sued. You're maybe losing your team members because they don't like working for you. So, things will fall apart if you don't make good on the promises that you're making in sales, not just to your customers, but to yourself and to your team members and to your family. Like business is Allie Brown, an early in goddess of internet marketing. She did an e-zine once upon a time before anybody knew what it was and grew an empire. But she said once that business is the best personal development course you might take
mhm.
of what it allows you to explore and understand and develop within yourself.
Yeah, no, I've totally witnessed that myself, especially with the market moving so fast, with there being so much competition. You have to constantly be growing or you're dying. So, no, that was a really great point on those top three KPIs. And I know you kind of already explained this already, but I almost want to go deeper, dumb it
Okay.
down. So, let's say, for example, a home service business, maybe they're 300K to $1 million a year, and let's say they're not profitable. They are barely making it. Maybe they're even potentially in debt. Is there like a quick fix? Does it do you take like one big commercial client or what do you do?
Oh, I would not do that. So funny that you came up with that. That's no, I wouldn't do that. Let me tell you why in just a minute. But here's what I would do. You're probably underpriced.
Mm,
You're probably underpriced because if you're 300,000 to a million, probably not paying yourself yet.
mm,
All right. Maybe your partner is working for free. Ooh, that person can get resentful. Been there, right? So like you're pulling in some favors, but it gets old if there isn't some light at the end of the tunnel that we're gonna go places. And Danny, the reality is I don't know if there's a more current statistic, but I mean, I heard Tommy Mello say this the other day. We'll quote Tommy. He said only 5% of all businesses get to a million. That's how many micro businesses there are. And at a million is where you might start to take some money out of your company and that kind of thing. So until you're, at a million, and what is that on a monthly basis? That's $83,334 rounding
mhm.
to get to $1 million. So like, and this is what we tell our franchisees, just like get there as fast as you can. Now, you may still not be making a lot of money, but it's the point at which you could
Mhm.
is like that point is a great place to be because you can be profitable at that in a service business that should allow you to take some money to pay your team members better. Like that's just go like gangbusters to get to that point. So really my best advice, and this is what my mentor Frank Lau told me once upon a time, until you're priced right, you're not gonna get there. So what does that look like? Let's say you're considering starting a business of your own. Let me ask you this question. If you were to start your own pest control service business and you were to be the owner, and we're just dreaming right now, so no wrong answers, what would a reasonable compensation for you as the owner, the one putting your skin on the you're putting your skin in the game, you're the one who's gonna answer the phones, back everybody up, it's your money, all of that. What's a reasonable compensation dollar amount for the owner of a pest control company?
I'd say when you're just starting out, it should be basically minimum wage. You should be paying yourself as little as possible so that you can build up the business and reinvest.
Practically, that might be what you have to do, but you're dreaming right now. What is a reasonable amount to aspire to? Like, what's fair for a person who deals with insects and chemicals and protects the health and safety of families? What's a reasonable compensation for the owner of one of those businesses?
Say at least $100,000 a year.
And gosh, you could make $100,000 a year working for somebody else, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so shouldn't it be bigger?
Yes.
You see where this goes? Okay,
Mhm,
let's suppose it's 200. Let's say that that's, that would be enough to leave my great job. Like it might not happen right away, but what do you want? You don't
mm,
want to make minimum wage or you'd make minimum wage, right? You start your business because you want more. Okay,
mhm,
so suppose you want 200,000 and I got to tell you, it could be 500,000, it could be $1 million a year. And this guy, me, is never going to criticize a contractor for making a ton of money
mhm,
because these are the essential services. We are the ones whose team members keep people safe and free of disease and all of that. So, like, whatever you pick, I'm going to go, okay, let's back it up. Let's go back and engineer that. So, you're starting out for yourself. And if you said, listen, I would like to make $200,000 this year, what would I have to build into my selling price? Now, you may not functionally be able to take that out, but you could start pricing for it right out of the gate because do you see that trap? Well, I'm not going to
mhm,
make any money, so I can charge less than that guy. If you don't have sales skills, what you're depending on is charging less to make the sale, and that's a
mhm,
path to poverty.
mm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what if I, just like do it on paper first, just play with it. Okay. So if I were to charge or if I were to want to make $200,000 a year, how much of my selling price? Okay. How much would I have to charge just to cover my salary?
Mm,
So let's look at this. So suppose you have 2,000 hours a year. That comes from 50 weeks a year times 40 hours a week. Make the math easy for
yeah.
this driving or whatever, right? Okay, so 2,000 hours a year is what someone who's going to actually provide the goods and services is going to be able to work. Or even the owner. Shouldn't the owner be able to punch out now and then? Let's just make it 2,000 and not 3,000. Does that make
Mhm,
sense?
yeah.
All right. Now, if you're running your own business and also running the calls, whew, that's a lot because there's all sorts of other things you have to do, plus go and sell and serve. So on for a really kickin' service company, 50% efficiency is awesome. And so let's say of those 2,000 hours a year, you only have 1,000 of them that could be billable. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Let's say, and this makes the math easy, but it's a pretty tight scenario.
Mhm,
Okay, so you got 1,000 billable hours a year. You would have to charge $200 per hour just for your salary, and you haven't bought a pencil or chemicals or a truck or insurance or uniforms or any marketing. So can you see how
yeah.
fast you could get to a $400, $500 an hour selling price built into some kind of menu pricing?
Mhm,
And if
yep.
right now you're listening to that and you're starting to poop your pants, I will assure you that the companies who've gotten big have gone through this and decided that they're going to get good enough at sales, at service, at operations while they're charging enough, because otherwise, how do you afford to do it? That's what separates those uber successful companies from that one or two truck outfit that is there for 20 years. Now,
Mm,
again, if all you wanna do is work in a truck all by yourself and, just I know some drain cleaners in Southern California. They go surfing in the morning, and then they unclear drains in the afternoon. They do YouTube videos. They're adorable. They're living their dream.
yeah.
You can do that. If you aspire to something, bigger, just figure it out mathematically. Try and take the judgment or the emotion out of it and think, "What would it take to do that?" I would have to charge more if I wanted to build a business that involved other people and multiple trucks and different services, etcetera. How does this sit with you? Is
Oh,
we're
no, I love the way you explain that.
Yeah.
And just the principle of figuring out what you wanna do and then reverse engineering that instead of a lot of guys will just see what other people are charging in the market and kind of go in
Oh,
between
that
that. And
Mhm.
also, I'd bet that a lot of people just have limiting beliefs and, well, oh, I was making 60K a year at my job, so if I can make 70K a year as the owner of my own business, then I'm totally cool with that. But I think that would be a big part of it too, is they need to think bigger, right?
Well, if you want bigger, then you gotta think
True.
bigger, but you don't have to. So what did Jeff Duden say? Just I was on that, Unemployable. Isn't that a great name for a entrepreneurial podcast? Unemployable. That's a great podcast. Jeff's a really great business builder, very disciplined. I love him. So listen, what's the name of his book? I can't remember. Maybe it's Unemployable. I can't remember, but Jeff Duden, Dudan, that's we have him as a mutual buddy. But, uh, now I lost my train of thought because where were we on what you wanna do and how you wanna
Mhm.
to grow it. Um, you don't he says, and I don't think he made it up, but he quoted it, "Comparison is the thief of joy." I
Yep,
don't
I
know
heard him
who
say that,
said
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who said it originally, but he said it the other day, and I love that quote. And it's a so when you go to seminars, you see Tommy Mello on stage or Jeff or Victor Rink or Lance Bachman or Catherine Elizabeth or, all these cool people who are out there doing cool things. Um, may I remind you that the game is to be the best version of you.
Yes, good
And
point.
they're all screwed up in some way. Everybody is. Not everybody has all aspects of their business and personal life dialed in. Who does? No one. So, you're going to get inspiration and information from these sources, that YouTube clips and going to seminars and reading books. But the implementation is up to you, and you get to decide what it is that you want to be and do and have. And I think, that's important to remember. So a podcast like this, I hope we're um, stirring up those thoughts for you,
Mhm.
like what is it that you really, really want? One of the things I figured out along the way, and this, I mean, I'm still figuring this out. I'm 66. Could be your grandmother. Um, the I really like the 0 to 1 moment.
Mm.
I really like when there's nothing and then there's something, but then I don't really wanna take it to 10, or I'm not skilled enough to do it, and I'm not so motivated to learn those skills. So there's something about the startup, the beginning, before we've screwed it up yet, that really appeals to me. So, like, I loved that experience with Benjamin Franklin. I loved it with Zoom Drain, and now with Zoom, at Zoom Drain, it really came down to, do I wanna move to Philadelphia, because that's where our headquarters is, and develop my personal skill sets so that I could be the president of a much larger organization? And I just went, "No, it's okay. Like, at
Mm.
this point, let's find someone else who can do it better than me," and that gives me a lot of joy and freedom. And so, like, that isn't every person's decision, but that's what's feeling right for me, and so that's the encouragement, is to keep looking. No one is senior to you when it comes to, deciding who it is you wanna be and the things that you wanna have and, what you wanna do. Tommy Mellon talks about being a billionaire, and I have no interest in that. That looks like a lot of phone calls and responsibilities. I mean, you have to be interested in what the game of being a billionaire would be, and it just doesn't ring a bell for me. However,
Yeah.
a millionaire sounds startling, right? So,
Yeah.
like, you get to decide these things, and, hopefully we're encouraging you along those lines.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's honestly the best and most practical advice to any business owner, because like you mentioned, I mean, you see the Tommy Mellos of the world, and it's just like, well, I've been in it for 20 years and I'm, barely at $1 million. So, Tommy, who's been in it for 20 years or maybe a little bit less than that, he's at like 200 or $300 million.
Yeah.
So like you said, you can't compare. You just have to be on your own path, be your best version of yourself, because everyone has their flaws. And yeah, I really like that. And something else I wanted to mention, because you started going into Zoom Drain. I want you to tell me the story of Zoom Drain and how you guys grew that so quickly, and what made it so
I'm gonna tell you
successful.
that, but you just triggered something for me that I don't wanna miss, so I'm gonna tell you this
Yeah.
first. Okay, so I was at was it Victor Ranker's presentation,
Hmm.
and right behind me was Wyatt Hepworth. Now, Wyatt is a legend. He and his family business has grown to 120 million in sales in Salt Lake City. and they have partnerships with about 30 other companies, and the whole shooting match is now doing over a half a billion in sales. And I
Wow.
met him and I was kind of starstruck and we hit it off. And like often you're going to hear from a mentor, he said, well, read this book. This is a book I've been recommending a lot. And this book is called Finish Big by Bo
Mm.
Burlingham, who's a legend in small business. Finish Big is about how you're going to exit your company. And the thesis of this book is that you should think about that. You could think about that on day 1, and you can
Mhm.
change your mind, but could you build a company that would allow you to exit? Because you will die and you can't take it with you. Like, that's the over like, you're always going to exit your business.
Mm.
Consider that as you're growing your business. Know the way out before you go in. I love the advice. The book's fantastic. But listen to Wyatt's story. You brought up you could be at $1 million for 20 years, and most companies will be 1 million or less for their entire life cycle, by
Mhm.
far and away the most. So anyway, Wyatt, any hour, plumbing, HVAC, and electrical, they're like 50 years old, this company. It was Wyatt's granddad and then his dad, and Wyatt had been at the helm for 20 years of the 50 years, okay? And they were at $2.5 million in sales.
Mm.
So it wasn't that Wyatt came in and instantly everything took off. But what happened is 20 years in, Wyatt starts thinking about what he really, really wants and decides that now's the time. And he has this young man who just has been working with him 1 week. This is a friend of mine, Dustin Van Orman, who works with him. He's amazing. And he walks into the office and Wyatt says, "I think we can do better." And Dustin's like, "Okay, I'm in." And they take what they call the good to great road trip. So that a few of them got in the truck. There's only 5 technicians at this point in this company. A couple
Mm.
of them get in the truck and they go and visit some cool shops. They do a road trip. But the rule was the only thing that they could listen to while they were driving was the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, another
Mm.
classic. And they started talking about what they saw at these companies and what did they really want. And they just had this like focused moment that really became the catalyst for them changing everything. So to your point, no matter how long you've been at where you are, the point of power is now. Even when I look at financials, I rarely look backwards. I'm
Mm.
always like, okay, now and forward, because the point of power is now. The opportunity is what lies ahead. But the past is done. Okay, you can learn whatever, but don't dwell there. And certainly don't define yourself by the past or
Mm.
talk about it because you're just recreating it. So, like, that point of power is here, and you decide and you take some aligned action for what you want that next step to be. That's what's really critical. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about Zoom Drain. I love
Yeah.
Zoom Drain. I love drain cleaning. I love a dirty job, so I like that.
Yeah.
So, Jim Crenity was one of my clients back in the day when I was doing the financial consulting. Here's your asset, here's your elbow, putting some simple financial systems in place. He was one of my clients, and he's a former military guy, an Air Force officer, very high standards. Absolutely love Jim Crenity. And then my best friend, Al Levy. And if y'all don't know Al Levy, go to Power Contractor, number 7, powercontractor.com, and meet Al. Al
Yeah.
is the best of us, and Al and I
I know
did
I
a
had him on the show like 6 months ago.
Oh, that's right, you
Yeah.
said you did. Isn't he the best?
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah, I talked to him at Home Service Freedom too. I spent maybe 20, 30 minutes with him. He's just, I mean, he's such a good person and he's so knowledgeable and the way he thinks, he's awesome.
He's awesome. Al is like the gold standard. We always wish Al were wrong once in a while, he never is. Just do what Al tells you to do.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Al and I had become friends. He and I had been friends for a while. That he sells his company. He's like, he just does what he does because he loves you. Like, that's why Al is motivated. He works with Tommy fairly exclusively now. They're good buddies. But back in the day, he and I were both consulting. He'd do some consulting and would refer each other because I knew
Mm.
the financial piece and he was great at operations, marketing, sales. He would take those aspects and we would work with the same clients over and over again. And then we also decided to help each other. So once a year, we'd have like a little retreat and talk about our own goals and dreams and what we wanted to have happen. And as we were talking, he said, well, I still have an itch to scratch. I want to be an investor and I also want to pass on the information that I've created, the systems that I've created. So I have those things yet to do. And I said, well, I love that you want to be an investor. What I'd like to do is franchise again. I really learned to love the franchising model at Benjamin Franklin. I wanted to do it again. I wanted to be an owner this time. So I was toying with that idea. And at that point, Al's phone lights up and it's Jim Cronetti. And he says, I'm thinking about franchising Zoom Drain and wanted to know if you would help. It
Wow.
was absolute kismet. And so we didn't talk to anybody else. We didn't look elsewhere. And then Al and his infinite wisdom says, okay, that's fine, but we're going to work on your shop first and make sure we're ready to go.
Mm.
So that was the next 2 years. And that's just Al is methodical. He's a tree planter. He wants to get the systems dialed in. And so we did. And that was 10 years ago. And we're not the fastest growing franchise out there. I don't know that I would aspire to be that. And there's always things you could do different and better. I mean, if you want to do great things, get prepared to. Brene Brown says, if you dream big and dare greatly, you won't just fail, you will fly swat fail. You
Mm.
will fail hard.
Yeah.
And so you got to decide, do you want that? But if you do, and if you are okay with picking yourself back up and learning from that and going like it's just the ante up to do great things is
Mm.
that you're going to fail hard. But
Okay.
failing isn't fail hard, meaning you're the ground, it's gonna hurt, but it's not that hard to get back up again. Really, it isn't. It's just like a phone call, an apology. I mean, unless you kill a man, and it can happen in our industry, right? Trucks are dangerous businesses. The most dangerous thing you have on the truck is the truck. And
Mm.
the
Yeah.
knucklehead driving the truck, right? We're all at risk in these businesses. And I don't want to downplay the seriousness of a bad day, but if you didn't kill a man today, there's really nothing you can't recover with,
Mm.
some humility and vulnerability and being willing to suck it up and try again or make the relationship better. So those are all parts of it. But in any event, we set off on this journey and it's been, uh, just a trip. I love drain cleaning more than ever, but I'll tell you what's dawning on me is we have a really solid system. Let's talk franchising for a minute because there's a lot
Yeah.
of franchises in your audience. Even with the very best system, and Zoom Drains is so solid. It's very simple. Clearing drains is not infinitely complicated. And I say that with some humility. I don't clear drains. So
Yeah.
hats off to the fine men and women in this world who do. I have so much respect for you. But my job is to set up a system where you can thrive and you can do well and you can be honored and respected for the work that you do and make really great money. But as you take on a franchise or you start a business, if you have a really great franchise, it's probably not the systems and procedures that are going to get in the way of your success. It's going to be all about the personal development,
Mm.
the grit that it takes to keep showing up, the sales skills and communication skills with your teammates. You got to grow those. You know what I mean? It's not just a matter of reading the manual and clearing the drain or doing the marketing. It's who you are going to become as the owner of a business that will determine the success of the business by your own yardstick. Like you'll be happier as you go within and find those areas that you need to work on. You're going to fail every day, but that piece of it is so important. And so one of the things we have at Zoom Drain is our values, but the way to live the values isn't just to read them or understand them, is to be willing to go inside and become the best version of you. I think that personal development is just a critical element of living a happy life as well as being a successful business owner. Is
Mm.
that making sense? Like it's not
No,
just
totally does.
now our values at Zoom Drain, the mnemonic is grow, GROW, grit. responsibility, ownership, and willingness. It's really all about leaning in, showing up every day. And what keeps you from doing that, what keeps you from going into the office or riding along on the truck or learning things that make you feel uncomfortable is really the relationship that you have with yourself. And that's something that the older I get, the more important I realize that is. Like, it's
Mm.
not just a matter of getting the roadmap. It's that you got to travel that path if what you want is on the other end of the road. Like, that's the piece that I think you want to look long and hard at if you're going to embrace the journey of entrepreneurism. With or
Definitely.
without a franchise, just that
Yeah.
that's the path.
100%.
Mm.
As we begin to wrap up here,
Oh,
Ellen, I
no,
want to
we're
ask you.
wrapping up?
No, I mean, if you have like an extra 30 minutes, we could keep going, but
Well,
we're
I
just,
I I don't know if our dear listeners have that much time, so,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I don't
let's
know, 10
let's,
more minutes if you have
make
it.
a part we'll make a part 2. What do you say,
Yeah.
Yan? I think
Yeah.
they're
No,
2
I'm down to do
minutes,
that.
so
Yeah.
happy to come back.
Yeah. No, I'd love to have you back. So one thing I wanted to ask you, kind of adjacent to that of growing as a person, not just a business owner, is what something you mentioned at the beginning or earlier in the podcast is that you've gone through a lot of brutal moments. You
Yeah.
specifically use that term, brutal moments. So, what were some of the brutal moments that you went through, and how did you get through them?
I think when you disappoint someone, I think is when it gets brutal. Like where whatever the setup was, and this can happen in a sale of any kind, that you make a promise and you see the picture and it doesn't come out to look like that. I mean, that's why the word responsibility is one of our values. If it's in my hula hoop, I now own it. And if it's a relationship that needs to be mended, then it's my job to do it or live with a fractured relationship. Some
Mm,
of those things happen in your life, and sometimes it's okay, and other times it breaks your heart. That people will come and go in your life, and that's where I think long-term, lifelong friends are so, so important. But there will be times where you disappoint. I think one of the things as a leader that one of your jobs as a leader is to take the arrows.
mm,
Somebody has to just stand in front
yeah.
of the arrows, and that if you're the owner, it's always you, and it's what you signed on for, but
Hmm.
that can hurt. Is it hard? Yeah, but it's also just again, that's where the adventure lies, is doing things that you might not be ready for, that you could do better next time. That's how it becomes this lifelong personal development journey. So I would
Yeah.
say, those relationships, that becomes the brutal part, or the money thing is brutal. Like when you're out of
Mm,
money, it is brutal.
yeah.
And people have a misunderstanding that somehow money is what makes you. I think there's a lot of stinking thinking around money that if I were a really good person, I wouldn't be bothered with the mundane aspects of this world, like having to deal with money, that the money would just come, that everything would
Hmm.
be fine. But what I found is that the lack of money causes people to drop their integrity. So a good person
Mm.
might do something really bad when they run out of funds. It's the whole premise behind the book Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, is he's broke, and so he steals a loaf of bread. This isn't a man who would go about stealing. He didn't have any money. And that's
Mm,
what happens. Or you might not pay your payroll taxes, or you might not go back and fix that customer's problem because, damn it, they didn't pay you enough in the first place. And you see what I'm saying? So the lack of money, an abundance of money can allow you to maintain your standards in a way that no money puts you at risk. And I would say then some of the brutal times in my life is when, I don't know where a payroll is going to come from, or I don't know. And that's why it was so important early on to get priced right and to figure that out. So that really became the mission of my life, is that if you're going to do this, you deserve to make a lot of money. Your team deserves it, and you're going to need it to survive the inevitable tough time that you don't even know is coming, right? That
mm.
money helps when it comes to that. Zig Ziglar says money isn't everything, but it's right up there with oxygen on the gotta have it meter.
Yeah.
right? So that's,
Mhm.
I think that's why that area of business I can help with, even though there's a lot more to learn about life and business. But that piece, and if you want to leave this for you, our dear listener, ellenrohr.com, ELLENROHR, that's me.com. I give away a copy of Where Did the Money Go on my site. You put your name and email address, and then you'll get a PDF via your email. And if you're starting a business or you want to grow yours, no bad thing comes from reading that book and sharing it with the people you love. So,
Awesome. Well, cool. You beat me to it. I was actually going to give you a chance to promote. So cool.
oh,
That
there you
definitely
go.
make
And
sure to go by.
if you're interested in ServiceTitan, I've had my friend Max here over my shoulder as a brand ambassador for ServiceTitan. ServiceTitan is appropriate if you're over the hump of about 3 trucks and you really want to grow. ServiceTitan can be a terrific ally for you. So check out servicetitan.com as well.
Yeah, definitely. ServiceTitan runs or they own Field Routes, which
Yeah.
is
Oh, that's right.
I
Field routes is the
yeah,
one even more appropriate if you're a pest control professional. Field routes might be the way for you to explore. Great
yeah. No,
software.
so there's tons of CRMs in the space, and it seems like kind of the default and what a lot of people like is Field Routes, and it started out as Pest Routes. So it
Yeah.
has kind of that pest control background too. And one thing I did want to ask you before we close, Ellen, and what I like to ask all my guests is, what is your message to the home service owners or just people in the home service space out there? What do you want to tell them? What do you think they need to know?
Oh, you're in the best place ever right now.
Mm.
Best place ever. I am so delighted at the opportunities that are available for whatever you wanna do. Home services is going to be, positively impacted by AI. AI is gonna make your life so much easier, but at some point, somebody has to show up at your customer's home or their place of business and say, "How you doing?" And that is a really good place to be right now. So you're in a good spot.
Awesome. I agree. And also, where can people find you on social media to follow you?
Ellen Rohr, just search Ellen Rohr, or if you go to YouTube, Ellen Rohr, and you'll see a bunch of my videos come up, but ELLENROHR is my handle. Thanks. And thanks for all you do. Danny, you're inspiring to me. I love what you're doing for the industry. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you for your time here, Ellen. And everyone, make sure to go follow Ellen across all the platforms. She is, one of the most well-known people in home services, especially in regards to finances and making sure you're profitable, your KPIs, all the stuff that we've talked about on the show. And yeah, we'll probably have to do a part 2 on this because I feel like we're just scratching the surface with a lot of these things.
And in 40 years, that's what people are going to say about you too, Danny.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for coming on, Ellen. It's been a blast.